The story begins with our female character, whose name is Rim, as she rushes frantically through a hospital corridor, only to find her father lying on his deathbed, his life slipping away moment by moment. She breaks down completely, but before grief can even settle, her father passes away. Rim, who already perceived herself as someone eternally wronged by fate, now began seeing herself as nothing less than a real-life Cinderella, abandoned by her father and left behind with two stepsisters and a stepmother. As shock slowly turned into memory, she recalled how her father had genuinely fallen in love with her stepmother, even though the woman had never truly felt happy with her previous family and never wished to stay there. Still, Rim could clearly sense that her stepmother deeply loved her father, and now she herself felt unbearably lonely. To complicate emotions further, a tiny new life was on its way into their household, a child who would become her father's final gift, not only to his wife, but to the entire family. Before his death, her father had whispered about a secret into Rim's ear, and after the funeral, when she returned to the very spot he had hinted at, she discovered a letter he had left behind. The letter did not contain any inheritance, nor a treasure map that could magically fix her life, but instead held a piece of advice that shook her deeply. He urged her to take shortcuts in life, to marry a wealthy man so her life could become easier, warning her that if she relied solely on hard work, she might end up dying young just like him after endless struggle. That advice that sounded less like wisdom and more like a motivational seminar gone horribly wrong. On the other side of the story, a man named Moon happens to be extraordinarily rich. So rich that even if his luxury hotel failed to meet its revenue targets, it would not bother him in the slightest. He carried himself with constant cheerfulness. Rim, meanwhile, was drowning in anger toward her father for leaving too early and giving her nothing but a letter that implied she could never become rich on her own. Ironically, on the reverse side of that very letter, there was a job advertisement, a vacancy at Moon's own 5-star hotel. That night, Rim dreamed of her father throwing a pumpkin at her. Initially terrified, she later discovered online that such a dream symbolized wealth and success, which gave her unexpected hope. Soon after, she attended a wedding with her best friend at Blue Heaven, the grand hotel owned by Moon himself. His personality appeared slightly unusual as he constantly carried an umbrella with him. Some believed it was a lucky charm, others whispered that it concealed a weapon for self-defense. During the wedding, the bride's ex showed up and nearly ruined the event, but Moon arrived just in time, overpowering him with impressive skill, aided heavily by his ever-present umbrella. Every woman present fell instantly for him, yet Moon showed no interest in women at all, viewing relationships as obstacles on his path to success. Meanwhile, in the same time his handkerchief accidentally flew toward Rim and landed on her, she felt oddly pleased, reasoning that at least she had gained a free branded item from the chaos. Back home, her stepmother proudly displayed a diamond ring, revealing that Rim's father had borrowed a large sum of money to buy it, a debt that now fell squarely on Rim's shoulders. Their house had also been mortgaged, meaning they would soon be forced to vacate it. The family was heartbroken, especially after learning that her father had taken on massive loans to help his sister, a generosity that now cost them everything. Rim bitterly wondered why someone already drowning in debt felt the constant need to rescue others. While packing their belongings, it was revealed that Rim once dreamed of becoming an artist, but financial limitations crushed her chances of proper education, leaving her dreams unfinished. Meanwhile, Moon coped with his minor worries by blowing bubbles instead of smoking, blissfully unaware that real suffering belonged to those who did not even have spare coins in their pockets. Rim moved into a small apartment where she had a room but no bed, forcing her to sleep on the floor. Soon after, her pregnant stepmother collapsed from exhaustion, and Rim began imagining a terrifying future where the baby consumed all available formula milk while the rest of them starved. Poverty truly does have a vivid imagination. Driven by fear, she applied for the hotel job listed on her father's letter. On interview day, she dressed like Cinderella in borrowed designer shoes from her sister Susan. Meanwhile, Moon reviewed the list of candidates and learned that the previous manager had quit after marrying a wealthy man. When his assistant praised marriage and children as essential to life, Moon dismissed the idea, explaining that he already supported many children, all of them orphans. As Rim adjusted her shoe on the staircase, one sandal flew off and landed directly into Moon's hands. Her inner Cinderella immediately awakened, convinced her prince had arrived, but Moon accused her of attempted murder, claiming the shoe was a deadly weapon that nearly killed him and robbed him of a future filled with wealth and luxury. She shoved him away in frustration, then saved him from falling, apologizing for the accidental hit while pointing out that saving him had been completely intentional. With a composed smile, she entered the interview room, only for that smile to vanish when she realized Moon himself was the boss. He mocked her cruelly, and she became certain the job was lost, so before leaving, she sarcastically wished that lightning might strike him in his prime and leave his wealth incapable of buying happiness. To her surprise, Moon took her words seriously, spending the entire day paranoid, keeping his umbrella open even indoors as protection from imaginary lightning strikes. Rainy weather began reminding him of Rim constantly, and her image refused to leave his mind, simply because no one had ever dared speak to him that way before. He reviewed her resume repeatedly, half convinced she had hypnotized him. The next morning, Rim received a call from Moon informing her she had been hired. Suspicious, she accused him of planning to bully her, but he denied it, joking that he feared she might poison him again with alcohol. Delighted, she cheerfully declared that today was their first day, causing Moon to blush as if it were the first day of dating. While getting ready, Moon worried that if she fell in love with him, things would become complicated, so he intentionally wore an ugly belt to appear unattractive. Unfortunately for him, Rim immediately praised the belt upon seeing him, forcing him to remove it in defeat. During her introduction, colleagues initiated a game where everyone had to confess their biggest dream without thinking. When Rim's turn arrived, she blurted out her honest wish to become Cinderella. Hearing this, Moon felt deeply disappointed, as he had believed she was entirely different from the rest. But it soon became clear to Moon that she was no different from the other girls. Just another gold digger who wanted nothing more than a wealthy man. He summoned Rim and accused her of deceiving him, claiming that she had joined such a prestigious hotel only to hunt for a rich husband and secure marriage through proximity. Rim calmly responded that whatever her dream was belonged to her personal life, and his concern should be limited strictly to her work. During this heated exchange, the conversation unexpectedly turned into a wager involving her job contract. They decided that whoever finished an enormous bottle of drink first would be declared the winner. If Rim won, she would keep her job. Rim, who survived mostly on junk food, stood at a disadvantage compared to Moon, who was obsessed with healthy eating because he planned on living a very long life. He attempted to switch the challenge to arm wrestling instead, during which Rim momentarily feared she had injured him, only to discover that it was merely an old childhood injury. Naturally, she could not defeat him in strength, so the drinking competition resumed. This time, Rim defeated him thoroughly, forcing Moon to sign her job contract, though he warned her to be prepared because her time ahead would be extremely difficult. Rim asserted that she harbored no ill intentions, arguing that love and marriage were universal dreams and basic rights. Moon dismissed the idea, declaring that he already loved himself enough and had no need for dating or marriage. Due to excessive drinking, Rim urgently needed a restroom, but the nearest one was far away. Embarrassment overwhelmed her to the point of tears, and she begged Moon to leave while growing increasingly emotional, secretly wishing it would rain just so she could have some form of cover. Moon left after repeated requests, but returned almost immediately, unable to abandon her during a crisis. He lifted her and ran toward the restroom while threatening her not to urinate on him, claiming he would kill her if she did, a rescue that felt less heroic and more like a very aggressive emergency service. In that moment, Rim truly felt he was her savior, the prince from her dreams. After she finished and stepped out of the restroom, she behaved awkwardly and shyly, which Moon found unexpectedly cute. Everything flipped upside down when a wealthy-looking woman entered and affectionately called Moon by a pet name. She turned out to be his fiancée. Rim's dreams shattered instantly. She recalled how Moon had insisted he had no interest in marriage, and now a fiancé stood right in front of her. Without waiting another minute, Rim left. After she departed, the fiancé named Dana reminded Moon that although their relationship was purely business-oriented and cooperative, rules still existed. She insisted he must answer her calls at all times. Moon resisted, questioning whether he was a firefighter who needed to rush at the sound of every call. Meanwhile, at home, Rim's stepsister mocked her, reminding herself that such grand dreams existed only in dramas and films, not in a world this vast and indifferent. Despite his efforts to distance himself, Moon could not understand why Rim constantly occupied his thoughts. To distract himself, he threw himself into exercise. Meanwhile, Rim's best friend, a voice actress, encouraged her to comment on her audiobook uploaded on YouTube to help increase its reach. The next morning, when Moon saw Rim, he teased her by calling her Pee-Pee from afar. She retorted that nothing had happened and that she had reached the restroom on time. He insisted she should thank him, to which she replied that she intended to, but his fiancée had conveniently appeared at the wrong moment. Moon countered by teasing her back, suggesting she had been attracted to his looks and wealth and was trying to trap him like Cinderella. Rim snapped, calling him a psycho and declaring she would rather remain alone her entire life than be with someone like him. Rim was then given a tour of the entire hotel, exposing her to elite clubs, extravagant entertainment, and unimaginably wealthy members. She was stunned by the world unfolding before her. Many women attempted to approach Moon, but he ignored them all. When a customer arrived, Rim wanted to handle the visit herself, but Moon intervened, telling her she still required training. Watching them walk together, his fiancée Dana grew jealous, suspecting the new girl was the same one from the previous day. Gossip soon reached her ears, including the rumor that Rim dreamed of becoming Cinderella, which she interpreted as a scheme to trap a rich man quickly. As punishment, Moon assigned Rim the task of washing bedsheets. While doing so, Dana approached her and revealed knowledge of her wish, telling her that wishes came true at a place called the Wish Pavilion. Later, while Rim hung the bedsheets on the terrace, she appeared unusually cheerful. Moon noticed and wondered what kind of music made her so happy despite hard labor. He removed one of her earbuds, accidentally opening an audiobook, an erotic novel scene narrated by her best friend, playing at a wildly inappropriate moment. Moon accused her that she is a pervert, and he never imagined that she is a fan of such things. Rim quickly explained that her friend was a voice actor and requested him to listen if he had time to help boost its reach. Soon after, his fiancée confronted Moon again, accusing him of showing excessive interest in a poor girl and warning that such rumors could damage her public image if he left her and walked away with that poor girl. After work, Rim decided to visit the Wish Pavilion, only to discover that fulfilling a wish required a large sum of money. Unable to afford it, she first asked her stepmother for money and was refused. She then approached her sister Susan, where she learned that a doctor intended to propose to Susan. He asked Rim for her sister's ring size, offering her $1,000 in return. Without hesitation, Rim secretly took one of Susan's rings and delivered the size, convincing herself she had only done something good. She finally arrived at the Wish Pavilion, where a shaman-like woman listened to her problems and advised her on what to do. Meanwhile, Moon kept seeing Rim everywhere and concluded that she was dangerous, deciding to keep his distance. The next morning when they crossed paths, Moon mocked her, telling her that her dream of becoming Cinderella would remain just a dream. No rich man would ever choose her, and that she lacked both courage and uniqueness. His words hurt her deeply, especially since she had begun feeling close to him and even thought she might fall for him. As she approached him, looking unusually beautiful, he abruptly told her to keep her distance because she smelled. Distraught, Rim later wondered if perhaps it was the scent of poverty that only rich people could detect. The shaman had instructed her to write her wish on a note and read it repeatedly. Then came the idea of magic that if fate intervened, if not Moon, her dream prince would finally appear. That very wish had been written on a small note, which suddenly flew away and landed on a customer. That customer turned out to be Peter, an exceptionally handsome and tall man. The moment Rim saw him, she felt as though her wish note had deliberately chosen its destination, convincing herself that this had to be destiny and that he might be the prince from her dreams. At the same time, Moon noticed the scene as well. Peter's shirt button had come loose, and he calmly sat down and stitched it himself, looking effortlessly cool while doing so. Rim wanted Peter to be the one she personally guided through the hotel and club, but an assistant intervened and took over the task. Soon after, Moon and Peter came face to face, standing opposite each other like unmistakable romantic rivals. Peter expressed interest in obtaining club membership, though memberships were currently restricted. However, he was a renowned filmmaker who had recently won a major award for being the youngest best director. Rim found herself deeply impressed and confidently told him to leave the membership matter to her. She went straight to Moon, who was not in a pleasant mood, and openly requested that Peter be granted membership. Dana, too, supported the idea, hoping it would confirm that Moon had no special interest in Rim. With pressure from Dana on one side and Rim on the other, Rim privately challenged Moon, reminding him that he had claimed she could never become Cinderella and daring him to give her a chance to prove otherwise. Cornered by the challenge, Moon reluctantly approved the membership. Rim was delighted and escorted Peter outside to see him off. Watching her stand so close to him, Moon shoved her aside, mocking her again by claiming she smelled, but she stumbled straight into Peter's arms. Peter gently remarked that she smelled wonderful and, as a token of thanks, handed her a lollipop before leaving. Moon burned with jealousy, even though somewhere deep down, Rim appeared exceptionally beautiful to him. He then assigned her a difficult task, announcing that a major party was scheduled at the club next week and instructing her to replace all the paintings. It was an extremely challenging assignment, and he handed her an artist's card to help with the task. Rim threw herself completely into the work, laboring tirelessly day and night. Since she herself had always wanted to become an artist, she possessed a natural instinct that allowed her to understand art deeply. Meanwhile, Moon kept seeing Peter everywhere, even imagining him in the form of his martial arts instructor and striking him mentally during practice. As Rim worked relentlessly on the project, she received a call from the doctor who wished to marry Susan. He informed her that his proposal had been rejected and demanded the return of the money he had paid her. Rim admitted she could not return the money, but advised him that Susan deeply loved her mother and that winning the mother's heart would be the key. That same day, Moon visited an abandoned house and gazed at a photograph, remarking that the woman in it looked exactly like Rim, perhaps explaining his attraction toward her. The next day at the hotel, Peter once again saved Rim from falling down the stairs, causing her heart to flutter uncontrollably. She was overjoyed until the artist who was supposed to deliver the paintings backed out. Rim chased him tirelessly and managed to secure most of the artwork, but one painting fell short, forcing her to draw it herself. Meanwhile, Moon kept dreaming of Rim questioning him about why he refused to admit his feelings. The next day, he went to the hotel where the club walls were adorned with brand new paintings. He genuinely admired her work, but coldly told her that had she arrived without ulterior motives, she could have gone very far, advising her instead to marry someone quickly and leave the club. Still, he permitted her to attend the evening party, warning her to dress properly so she would not be ridiculed. When Rim arrived at the party, Moon froze the moment he saw her, unable to look away. However, she barely acknowledged him and walked straight toward Peter, which ignited Moon's jealousy. Peter admired her artwork and suggested that she paint his portrait someday. Among the elite guests was a woman named Rena, who deliberately tried to humiliate Rim after seeing her with Peter. She mocked Rim as a money-hungry girl and even offered her a high salary to work as a housekeeper, effectively attempting to turn her into a servant. Rim felt deeply insulted, but reminded herself to ignore everything and focus on her dream of winning Peter's heart. Dana asked Rim to bring her a drink, but Rim returned with a mint chocolate-flavored beverage that Rena despised, and she shrugged the drink that spilled onto Rena's clothes, and Rim instinctively grabbed Rena, causing both of them to fall. Rena erupted in fury, but Peter came, and Rim thought he would help her, but he helped Rena up instead of Rim, urging forgiveness. At that moment, Rim realized how wrong she had been to imagine him as her prince. When Peter finally extended a hand toward her, Moon abruptly knocked it away and declared that he personally loved mint chocolate flavor, making the crowd believe they had just witnessed an indirect confession of love, subtle enough to confuse everyone and dramatic enough to ruin several gossip blogs at once. Moon helped Rim up, but Dana slapped him across the face. Ignoring the slap, Moon wrapped his coat around Rim to cover her and took her inside. Once inside, he advised her to clean the stain from her dress and admitted she had looked beautiful that evening. Rim worried about the slap, asking if it had hurt him badly. He joked that it felt as though his tooth had nearly loosened, but insisted he could not tolerate anyone bullying his employees, especially her. Rim reminded him that Dana was his fiancée and urged him to go check on her. He paused before leaving, clarifying that although Dana was his fiancée, they did not love each other, and at that moment, his concern was for Rim alone, and Moon followed Dana, only to be scolded harshly and threatened with another slap if he came any closer. After enduring yet another reprimand, he entered the restroom, where he encountered Peter. Peter insinuated that Moon was doing far too much for an employee and reminded him that as elite class men, they were not permitted to love girls like her. Moon challenged the idea, declaring that he obeyed no such limits and accusing Peter of jealousy. He pinned him against the wall, moving dangerously close and teasing whether Peter had started feeling attracted to him instead, warning that he was not that kind of man. As these words echoed, old memories began surfacing in Peter's mind. His first love was a woman who abandoned him when he was not successful. That memory stayed with him, pushing him to believe that this time he would not lose in love again. Rim stepped outside and apologized to Rena, thinking that as an employee trying to protect her job, saying sorry once was the practical thing to do. Rena responded with cruel sarcasm, pointing out that she herself had made the mistake and pushed her, yet Rim was the one apologizing, telling her to judge from that alone how low her status really was. She humiliated her relentlessly, showering her with disrespectful remarks. Rim was deeply hurt. A little later, Moon arrived and asked what had happened. Rim replied that when someone like her was poor and dared to dream big, humiliation became something they had to endure. Moon held her hand and started leading her away, demanding to know who had humiliated her and who had the audacity to do so. She remained silent. He told her she had every right to dream and that she was capable of achieving anything, assuring her that he stood by her side. Hearing this, Rim grew emotional and told him to do whatever he felt was right. At that very moment, with everyone watching, Moon took a bold step and kissed her. Leaving the crowd stunned, the two of them walked away. Rim soon apologized, saying she was not in her senses at that moment and had been swept away by emotions. Moon responded that he was not driven by impulse and took full responsibility for what he did, adding that she had participated equally in the kiss, so if it was a mistake, it belonged to both of them. He then jokingly added that once the world learned the CEO of Blue Heaven had kissed her publicly, men would line up behind her, jealousy would spread, and he could conveniently become her fairy godmother. So from now on, he will guide her toward becoming Cinderella and achieving her Prince Charming, a career upgrade that apparently came with magical benefits and zero HR paperwork. Though he managed to cover the situation with humor, Moon found himself seeing Rim everywhere, always replaying that kiss in his mind. Meanwhile, when Dana reached home, she lashed out at her two uncles in anger, even snatching food from them. They understood that she was upset because of her fiancé. When Rim reached home, Dr. Gu was there, having followed her advice to win Susan's mother's heart. Elsewhere, Moon admitted to his martial arts teacher that he liked someone, but was not allowed to like her. When asked if the woman was married, he said no, explaining that she wanted to become Cinderella. He shared how his own mother had done the same with his father, falling in love, divorcing him later, taking a large sum of money, and leaving their lives completely, leaving his father emotionally broken. Moon confessed that he did not want to end up with a broken heart, so he believed it was better to match Rim with a good man and spend his life missing her from afar. The next morning, when they came face to face, both felt intensely embarrassed. Rim awkwardly joked that it felt as if she had eaten a rare worm the previous day, something extremely expensive that she could never afford before. Moon was shocked, wondering how his precious first kiss had been compared to a worm, and started imagining scenarios where he stood as her groom only to be rejected because she thought he had grown clingy after just one kiss. Later, Moon faced multiple questions at the club, but brushed them off by saying he had been very drunk and that such mistakes happened when people were intoxicated. Meanwhile, Peter visited Rim. She behaved formally, serving him tea as part of her duty, but accidentally burned her hand. He applied an ice pack and asked what was going on between her and Moon. Rim explained that Moon was just her boss and that drunk people often behaved oddly, casually mentioning that he had once even kissed a pole while drunk, proving that she was nothing special. Peter gently placed a hair clip in her hair and asked her to meet him at his studio. Before leaving, he confronted Moon, telling him that he had crossed a line and warned him that from now on, there would be no limits between them, only fair competition. Moon felt anger rise within him, but calmed himself by convincing his heart that this was exactly what he wanted, Rim to be matched with someone else. His assistant later told Rim that it seemed their boss had fallen for her, noting that he had never shown such feelings toward any woman before. Rim went to Moon and mentioned the hair clip Peter had given her and the invitation to his studio. Moon initially reacted with anger, questioning how she could meet a man alone, but then forced himself to agree, saying that this was exactly what he wanted. Rim hesitated and admitted that she kept thinking about the kiss and had unanswered questions, and she asked if they could kiss once more to confirm her feelings. As she moved closer, Moon closed his eyes, and this is what she wanted to test. As the assistant told her that if Moon allowed the kiss, it meant he had fallen for her. But struggling to control himself, Moon pushed her back and scolded her, asking if she had gone mad. He then insisted that if she was going to meet Peter, she could not go like this, and dragged her along for shopping. Rim intentionally tried on absurd outfits to annoy him, but Moon rejected them all and selected elegant dresses instead. Before leaving, he told her that her taste was terrible, but that he respected it, adding that she could wear such outfits only in front of him. He reminded her that he was her fairy godmother, arranging everything, and told her not to worry about money since he had plenty, enough apparently, to sponsor fashion interventions full-time. The next day, Moon was restless, imagining what Rim might be doing with Peter. Meanwhile, Rim reached Peter's studio, where he had prepared food for her. They ate together, and he asked her to create a storybook for him, saying he knew how much she loved art and wanted her to do what truly made her happy. He moved closer and admitted that he liked her, but before he could kiss her, they were interrupted. Rim suddenly remembered Moon's kiss, and they realized someone else was present. It was Peter's elder brother, who stepped out at that moment. His brother was a parasite who constantly demanded money, and when refused, tried to humiliate Peter in front of Rim. He mocked him for pretending to follow his heart while actually choosing what society respected, revealing that Peter did not even own the novels he claimed to admire. Peter felt deeply insulted and threw his brother out. He then asked Rim to leave as well. Rim argued that there was nothing shameful in his journey. At least he had achieved everything through his own efforts. Peter pleaded with her not to reveal this incident at the club, fearing his membership would be canceled, explaining that their social circle would never accept such truths. Rim left the place quickly, unaware that Moon had been watching her from afar. For someone like him, obtaining the addresses of club members was never difficult, yet he felt relieved seeing her return so soon, convincing himself that nothing could have happened between her and Peter. The next morning, Moon arrived at the office unusually early because he wanted to ask Rim how her meeting had gone. The staff was stunned to see him arrive first. Soon after, Dana arrived as well and immediately began talking to Rim, asking her to sit down. She apologized for that night, explaining that her fiancé kissing Rim had actually been part of a bet between them. According to Dana, the bet was that Moon would find a rich man for a girl who could not achieve anything on her own, and in the process, he had gone too far. She admitted that for rich people, such things were often treated as entertainment, and Rim had unknowingly become part of their amusement. Hearing this, Rim felt deeply hurt, realizing she had merely been a wager for their fun. Still, to irritate Dana, she casually remarked that she had not felt bad because Moon happened to be a very good kisser, a comment that nearly caused Dana's head to explode internally. When Moon later came to meet Rim, she behaved rudely and confronted him, accusing him of kissing her and then sending her off to another man. She questioned what right he had to ask about her private meetings on her day off and warned him not to turn her life into entertainment. Moon was left confused by her sudden anger. Meanwhile, Dana vented all her rage on her uncles. Those uncles began plotting that the girl causing Dana distress should be removed from her life altogether. Disguising themselves, they first went to Blue Heaven, identified Rim, and later kidnapped her when she left alone after work. In a moment of cruel irony, the pepper spray she tried to use ended up in her own eyes, making the kidnapping disturbingly easy. Her best friend waited endlessly for her at dinner, unable to reach her by phone. Worried, she rushed to Blue Heaven, where she spotted Moon. His presence felt so authoritative and reassuring that she instantly recognized him as the CEO. When Moon learned she was Rim's best friend and that Rim had left long ago without a trace, he panicked and asked her to stay with him until Rim was found. Meanwhile, Rim pleaded with the uncles, explaining that she was not rich and that kidnapping her would gain them nothing. But they threatened her and left her tied up while stepping out briefly. Her phone was still in her pocket. Using voice commands, she activated it and called her friend who happened to be sitting with Moon at that moment. As soon as the call came through and Rim explained she had been kidnapped and described the factory-like location, Moon was flooded with childhood memories of his own kidnapping. He drove recklessly toward the location. The uncles returned and demanded that Rim stay away from Moon because he was their future son-in-law, and Dana was deeply upset. They ordered her to write a resignation letter. After struggling so hard to secure a good job, Rim refused. They threatened to cut her hair if she did not comply. Just then, Moon stormed in like a true hero and brutally overpowered both uncles, knocking them down with impressive force. He rushed to Rim, checking if she was all right, admitting how worried he had been. With the uncles tied up, they confessed that they were Dana's uncles and only wanted to protect their daughter's happiness. They accused Moon of cheating on Dana because of Rim and insulted Rim by calling her ugly. That remark hurt her deeply. Taking revenge, Rim shaved off their eyebrows, took photos of them, and clarified that everything had been a misunderstanding. After leaving the place, she stood silently for a moment, before suddenly started hitting Moon repeatedly. She blamed him for everything that had happened. Moon did not object. He wanted her to vent her anger freely. On the way back, Moon revealed that he too had once been kidnapped as a child, betrayed by his own nanny. Further, he told her that every important woman in his life had deceived him, which was why he struggled to trust women, and had begun viewing them as emotionless stones. He explained that even back then, his umbrella had saved him, and that same umbrella had helped him rescue Rim today as well. Rim remarked that the umbrella seemed miraculous. Moon jokingly asked if she wanted one too, but she replied that it was not the umbrella that saved her, it was him. When Rim returned home, chaos awaited her. The family had discovered that she had taken money from Dr. Gu in exchange for Susan's ring size. Susan was devastated after learning that Dr. Gu had cheated on her and proposed to another woman. Furious, her sister Susan unleashed all her anger on Rim. Rim refused to apologize, saying she had done nothing wrong, though she did apologize for becoming part of the family. The stepmother had never been cruel and had always cared for Rim, yet Rim kept her distance because she disliked step relations. Another misunderstanding led to a fight with Susan, after which Rim left the house. Meanwhile, Moon confronted Dana, warning her that what her uncles had done was unacceptable. He told her that while he tolerated her insults, he would not tolerate any harm toward Rim, even if it meant ending their relationship. Dana was furious, and when her thick-eyebrowed uncles returned, she unleashed her anger on them once again. Rim moved back into her old, dilapidated house where she had once lived with her father. There was no water or heater, and she spent a freezing, sleepless night before waking early to prepare for work, knowing the office was far away. Meanwhile, at the hotel, Moon, deeply disturbed by what had happened, decided to provide self-defense classes for all his employees. Though in truth, Rim was the one he cared about most, but she arrived late that day, missing the general training, so Moon gave her special one-on-one lessons. He instructed her to attack him like a criminal so he could teach her the right moves. As they practiced, both of them blushed repeatedly. They continued practicing for a long time, enjoying the moment, until Peter arrived and deliberately provoked Moon by claiming that when Rim had visited his studio, they had enjoyed themselves greatly, and exactly what Peter wanted ended up happening. Poor Moon could not shake the thought from his mind and kept obsessing over what the two of them might have enjoyed together. Peter took Rim aside and expressed his desire to start dating her, saying with certainty that he was in love with her. Rim responded that whatever secret he carried would remain safe with her, but she felt she was not worthy of him and that he deserved a well-bred girl from a respectable family. Peter insisted that she was special precisely because she did not despise him even after knowing his truth. Meanwhile, Moon's mind spiraled uncontrollably, imagining Peter enjoying himself with Rim, perhaps even kissing her, and these thoughts tormented him endlessly. To release his tension, he wrapped a bandage around his neck and went to meet Rim after Peter left. He claimed that he was only acting for practice, then muttered bitterly that such techniques should have been used on someone like Peter instead. Rim, deliberately teasing him, praised Peter for being sweet and said she cherished him, adding that he had openly asked her out, calling that the mark of a real man. What she truly wanted was for Moon to confess if he liked her, to show that status differences meant nothing to him. She challenged him by asking whether he could love a poor girl if he were in Peter's place. Moon replied that there was nothing extraordinary about that. Rim immediately dared him to spend a night at her humble home if it was truly no big deal. Moon accepted the challenge without hesitation. That night, they drove toward her house, far from the city, both feeling awkward in the silence. When they arrived, Moon had never seen such a broken and worn-down house before, and laughter escaped him instinctively, though he still agreed to stay. Since he always carried camping gear in his car, they set up a camp outside and shared a meal together. During their conversation, Rim revealed how strained her relationship had always been with her step-family. Though they tried to care for her, she disliked step relationships deeply. Moon told her that this was her own resentment, and that if she removed the lens of hatred, she would see that someone in this world did care for her, especially her stepmother, and that she should open her heart instead of shutting people out. Rim began to understand his words. Meanwhile, Susan ran into Dr. Gu and angrily confronted him, accusing him of cheating on her sister. The doctor repeatedly insisted he had done nothing wrong and revealed that it was Rim who had given him the gifts that he later handed to their mother, along with arranging meals for the family. He explained that Rim did care, but hesitated to show it openly. That night, as the cold intensified, Rim and Moon had to share a blanket. A weather alert warned of heavy snowfall, causing Moon to panic that the house might collapse under snow and they might die, so he suggested going to his place instead. Rim agrees, and when she saw his house, she stood speechless as it looked nothing less than a palace, the kind of place where even doors probably paid rent to exist. Inside, she took a hot shower but could not figure out how to turn the tap off due to the advanced system. Moon had to step in to help. Although she wore a bathrobe, Moon avoided looking at her. In the process, he slipped, and they both fell on top of each other, resulting in an accidental kiss that left them blushing deeply. Shortly after, they stepped out, but Rim received a call from Susan, who excitedly told her she had ordered beef and urged her to come home for a delicious dinner. Rim felt overjoyed, believing that her family had opened their doors to her again. As she prepared to leave, Moon assumed she was going to meet Peter and stopped her, during which his bathrobe belt came undone and it became an awkward moment for both of them. While composing herself, Rim clarified that she was going to her own home. Hearing this, Moon felt relieved that she had regained her family and allowed her to go, though both silently wished he had stopped her once or twice more. When Rim reached home, her stepmother welcomed her warmly and confessed that she had never wanted to be just a stepmother, that she had always accepted Rim as her own daughter. Susan also arrived, apologized, and admitted that she understood Rim's intentions had never been wrong. Moon, meanwhile, went to visit his father at the hospital and questioned him about the importance of love in life. His father reminded him that he had always taught him that women were like stones in his life, asking if he had forgotten how his mother had left them both and moved on with another man, leaving emotional devastation behind. Moon recalled the painful incident from his childhood once again. The next day, Peter arrived at Blue Heaven with another woman whose face was half covered. She introduced herself as Lily Chu, appearing mysterious due to the concealment. Christmas celebrations were underway at Changdam Heaven. Rim looked exceptionally happy, and Moon could not take his eyes off her. Dana noticed this shift immediately, realizing that Moon had never looked at her that way. Furious, Dana sat aside, increasingly irritated by Rim. Rena also arrived and mocked Dana for not having taught Rim a lesson yet, demonstrating how people like her should be treated. She summoned Rim and humiliated her, forcing her to mop the floor repeatedly. Rim endured it silently to avoid causing trouble in front of VIP customers, but then she remembered the courage Moon had instilled in her. She pulled the stick from the mop and began swinging it threateningly at Rena, questioning whether only those born with silver spoons had the right to dream. At that moment, Peter arrived. Rena clung to him immediately, but this time he pushed her away and openly confessed his love in front of everyone. He declared that if anyone believed Rim had seduced him, they were wrong because he was the one who was pursuing her, and he had already fallen for her and had even proposed, though she had not yet given him an answer. Moon overheard everything and felt crushed. The employees teased Rim, joking about when she planned to quit since she had already found her dream prince. Yet Rim felt no happiness. She could see only Moon everywhere. She approached him and admitted she did not like Peter. Moon responded coldly that this was exactly what she had wanted, to come to Blue Heaven and make a rich man fall for her, and that now she had achieved it, she should calmly think about what she truly wanted. When Peter later crossed paths with Moon, he deliberately taunted him, intensifying the unspoken rivalry between them. Peter arrogantly declared that Moon would always remain behind, while he would soon marry Rim and take her away from this place forever. Those words ignited a fight between Moon and Peter, and the two of them began brawling like children, tumbling from the restroom all the way into the gallery. To bring them back to their senses, both Lily Chu and Rim ended up hitting them. Rim struck Moon on the head, which enraged him deeply. He complained that no matter what happened, she should have taken his side. He reminded her that he was her CEO, the one who paid her salary, yet she had hit him instead of Peter. Rim snapped back that if she stayed with him any longer, she would go mad. As she walked out, Lily Chu and Peter asked her to come with them. Meanwhile, Moon drowned himself in alcohol at his bar. Later, Lily Chu and Rim spoke privately, and the truth finally surfaced that Lily Chu was none other than Moon's mother, which explained why she had hidden her face earlier. Lily revealed everything honestly. She explained that people labeled her an unfaithful woman, but that rumor had been spread by her mother-in-law, who had branded her an evil witch and forcibly separated her from her husband and son. She confessed that she had suffered endlessly after being torn away from them, yet never found the courage to face Moon again. Although she had become rich and successful, there was a void in her life, the love of her son. Rim finally understood why Moon had never confessed his love as he struggled to trust anyone. Filled with regret over her own behavior, Rim changed completely the next day. She hovered around Moon like a personal bodyguard, defending him fiercely even over trivial matters. Her loyalty became so excessive that even Moon grew irritated and jokingly asked if she was expecting a bonus. Meanwhile, Suzine's misunderstanding was cleared. Dr. Gu had always liked Susan and had only been practicing how to propose by standing with a female friend, which Susan had mistakenly assumed was cheating. When she went to the rooftop, he proposed again. Susan scolded him for enduring so much beating from her sister and still not learning his lesson. He replied that he did not want to lose her, no matter how many times he was beaten, and that he would speak his heart regardless. Their misunderstanding finally dissolved, and they became a couple. Meanwhile, Rim brought Moon to a quiet place and asked him to listen fully before reacting. She had invited Lily Chu there. After seating mother and son together, Rim stepped aside. Lily clarified everything, explaining that what Moon believed about her was wrong, that she had loved only his father all her life, and that she had been forced to leave. She confessed that she could not leave this world without telling him the truth. Hearing this reopened all of Moon's old wounds. He broke down, saying he could forgive everything except the fact that she had left him, questioning how a mother could ever give up her child. It was revealed that after his mother left, Moon became painfully lonely and began carrying an umbrella everywhere, believing it shielded him from the world. He stepped outside, crying, and told Rim that he could never forget the scars of his childhood. Rim hugged him tightly and urged him to at least try to let go. He reminded him that he still loved his mother deeply and that love did not require words, only feelings. As Moon cried in her arms, the umbrella slipped from his hand, the same umbrella he had carried all his life to shield his loneliness. Encouraged by Rim, he returned inside to face his mother once again. After clearing everything with her, he walked out feeling as if the knot around his heart had finally loosened forever. He felt lighter and admitted to Rim that he never thought he would be able to face his mother. Yet meeting her brought him peace. As they talked, Moon told Rim that her dream of becoming Cinderella did not suit her. She questioned whether she lacked beauty or capability. Holding her hand, he explained that she was strong, and such a weak character did not suit her, that she could achieve her dreams on her own without a Prince Charming, and assured her that she truly was beautiful. Hearing this made Rim blush intensely. Moon dropped her home afterward. The next day, Rim dressed with extra care, realizing she had fallen for Moon and wanting to look her best in front of him. Moon, too, prepared carefully, hoping to impress her, even dancing with his umbrella afterward, as if rehearsing for fate itself. Outside the office, another romantic moment unfolded when a child's water gun sprayed water, and Moon shielded Rim with his umbrella like a hero. Instead of praising him, she praised the umbrella and teasingly suggested that since he no longer needed it, he should give it to her. Moon handed over his beloved umbrella, something as precious to him as a part of his own body. That evening, Moon decided he would finally propose to Rim. While preparing for it, Dana caught him red-handed and dragged him aside. She confessed her love and threatened that she could not tolerate another woman in his life. She warned him of the consequences if he chose Rim over her, hinting that while he might survive, Rim would not. Knowing Dana's gangster-like family, Moon could not risk Rim's safety. Under blackmail, he gave in. The next day at Blue Heaven, Moon appeared completely drained as Dana announced that they would be having a simple wedding the following week and ordered preparations to begin. She declared that the wedding event would be managed by none other than Rim herself. That same day, Peter arrived and confronted Rim, pointing out that she still had not given him an answer. He presented her with another offer, asking her to come with him to Berlin, promising a future where she could become an artist and assuring her of lifelong love. Confused and overwhelmed, Rim kept the offer with her. Meanwhile, Dana busied herself selecting her wedding gown. Dana was furious with Moon because he showed no emotion at all. He told her that yes, he was agreeing to marry her, but forced smiles and manufactured romance could not be performed on command. This only made Dana angrier, and she yelled at him relentlessly. Moon calmly told her that she was beautiful and could easily find a man who truly loved her, so she should not waste herself on him. Deeply hurt, Dana returned home and sat with her father, confessing that she loved Moon deeply, but his heart simply did not beat for her. She admitted she could not survive in a loveless marriage and wanted to marry someone who genuinely cherished her. Her gangster father could not bear the sight of tears in his daughter's eyes. The very next morning, something shocking happened. Everyone gathered outside Blue Heaven, only to find the entire hotel and club shut down. Employees were suddenly granted paid leave and sent off on vacation. Rim was confused and worried. Having seen Moon's house before, she went to ask him what had happened. Moon appeared injured but refused to explain anything. During their conversation, Rim told him that Peter had offered her a future, a career, love, and a move to Berlin. Moon responded that it was good news and encouraged her to go build her future and conquer both the world and her career. This deeply hurt Rim. She demanded to know whether he had ever felt anything for her at all, his care, his closeness, everything they shared, or whether it had all been mere entertainment. She accused him of being a playboy and turned to leave. Moon grabbed her hand, kissed her, and said that if he were truly a playboy, he would have done this long ago. This hurt Rim, and she responded by slapping him across the face. It was then revealed that Blue Heaven had been shut down because Dana's father had arrived the previous night with his men, vandalized everything, beaten Moon brutally, and canceled the wedding before leaving. Moon's father confronted him afterward, reminding him that love only brought loss and pain. When Moon refused to accept this, his father challenged him and stripped him of his position, declaring that he was no longer the CEO. He warned that once Moon was reduced to poverty, the woman occupying his mind would abandon him as well. Meanwhile, Rim cried endlessly. She received a parcel containing a painting she had made in childhood, one Moon had secretly taken from her old house, restored, and returned as a gift. Along with it was a letter stating that she did not need a Prince Charming because she was a warrior capable of fighting her own battles and reaching the top without any ladder. Reading this reignited Rim's strength, and she decided to begin anew. Soon after, she received a call informing her that Blue Heaven was permanently closed and that Moon had been removed as CEO by his father. She finally understood that there had been reasons behind Moon's behavior. Determined, she met Peter and declined his Berlin offer, telling him she would build her career on her own. She returned his tickets. She searched for work but found nothing easily. It was not simple. Moon's memories followed her everywhere, no matter how hard she tried to escape them. His umbrella, however, always remained with her, protecting her in both rain and memory. Whenever she thought of him, she worried absurdly about whether he had become homeless or could even afford food. Love had clearly turned her into a full-time overthinker with unpaid emotional shifts. One day, while passing Blue Heaven, she went inside and found Moon sitting there, searching for the ring he had brought that night to propose to her. She turned on the lights, helped him up, and seated him properly. Moon told her that he had lost everything and could never be her dream prince, asking her to leave. Rim replied that when she was poor and he was rich, he accepted her, so why should his poverty now matter to her? She said they would rise together and reminded him that love did not measure wealth. She proposed to him, placed the ring on his finger, and they kissed. For the first time, Moon told her that he loved her, the words Rim had waited for since the very beginning. They went out to eat together, and this time Rim paid because Moon truly did not have a single coin. She brought him home, where everyone was delighted to finally see someone in her life. Her mother adored him instantly, mostly because he was undeniably handsome. They spent the night together. When he almost kissed her again, he stopped himself and suggested going to his own house instead. She asked whether he had not become homeless. He explained that tenant protection laws allowed him to keep the house for a few more months, but admitted he should not take her there because he might lose control now that he had confessed his love. Morning arrived, and Moon shared breakfast with his future in-laws, impressing them with his humility, despite once being wealthy. Later, Moon visited his father and told him that even if their relationship was broken, he would always remain his son and continue visiting him. He then announced that someone had come to meet him, Moon's mother. As soon as she arrived, Moon's father softened, and all misunderstandings dissolved. Shortly afterward, Moon received a call stating that everything had been restored to him, his position, his life, because he had passed the test by reclaiming love for both himself and his father. Meanwhile, Rim received a call from a director. The storybook she had written for one of Peter's films had impressed him greatly, and she was invited to work on a major comic project. Her success skyrocketed. Later, her mother gave birth to a baby girl, Rim's younger sister. Rim became extremely successful as her comic book gained massive popularity, bringing endless work opportunities. Sometimes she even forgot to give Moon enough time, which he teasingly complained about, but they remained deeply happy together. Eventually, Rim returned to Blue Heaven not as an employee, but as Moon's wife.